Hello folks, Shin Tiger Curl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another part in my countdown to Pirate Warriors 3 Let's Play. Before, we just finished off the Straw Hat Pirates with their musician Brook, and now we move on to the first of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. You've already heard what these guys are like. Now let's look at the individual members, both past and present. Like before, all the information provided here comes directly from the One Piece wiki. So if you want to learn more about the world of One Piece via its characters, locations, items, or legends, go ahead and swing over to One Piece wiki, or better yet, just read the manga or watch the anime. You will not be disappointed. So with that, let's get started. Trafalgar D. Waterlaw, more commonly known as just Trafalgar Law, and by his epitaph, the Surgeon of Death, is the captain and doctor of the Heart Pirates, a pirate crew from the North Blue. On top of being one of the 11 pirates who have been referred to as the 11 Supernovas, later known as the Worst Generation, he became one of the 7 Warlords of the Sea during the time skip, but his position has become unknown after Admiral Fujitora declared his status revoked for allying with the Straw Hat Pirates. Law, like many other pirates, dreams of finding One Piece. During the time skip, his bounty has increased from 200 million to 440 million berries before it was frozen. Personality. While still a young boy attending a doctor's academy in Fleavance, Law was a very kind and devoted child, refusing to leave his family behind despite falsely promised evacuations at hand, and aspiring to become a great doctor like his father, while happily going to festivals with his beloved family. Upon the destruction of his homeland, the annihilation of his classmates and family, and diagnosed with no more than 38 months to live, Law suffered a mental breakdown, and according to Doflamingo, came to be known for being very cruel and cunning, having wanted to join Doflamingo's crew so he could destroy everything around him. Only having been cured of his illness by Corazon did Law have a change of heart. Law is an extremely laid-back character who is nearly almost always seen smiling calmly. The only times he's shown not smiling is when he's incredibly shocked, explaining something to other people, frowning in deep thought, or deeply embarrassed, as when Chopper was tied to his head due to him being unable to walk. After the time skip, he was shown not smiling as much anymore, but usually has a cautious, observant expression on his face. Now he usually smiles when he's trying to provoke someone or is pleased that the plan has worked as intended. He's also has a more reckless attitude when he faced off against other pirates that the world government had labeled as a higher threat. For example, he casually asked X-Straight how many people he had slain in his very first appearance, and had no qualms about flipping off Eustace Kidd, the most wanted supernova in the archipelago, even smiling defiantly while doing so. However, he hates being ordered around, as evidenced by his frown and follow-up reply when Kidd told him and Monkey D. Luffy to stay back as he wanted to hold off the attacking Marines. He is, however, capable of knowing when he and his crew members are immediately in a pinch, and is not above resorting to forging brief alliances with rivals for survival. He speaks in a politely sarcastic manner, and he also appears to be honorable enough to refuse taking credit that is due to others, as seen when he replied to Jean Bart that his thanks should be deserved by Luffy, when the former slave offered his gratitude to the pirate captain. Law has also displayed a more competitive side to him in the anime, when he, along with Kid and Luffy, got into a childish argument about who gets to take down the Marines stationed outside the human auction house when the 3 supernovas came out to confront them. Although this might be because he was a little angry at Kid for trying to order him around, in contrast, he does not seem as eager to reach the New World as the other supernova crews, believing that One Piece will still be there, regardless while the other crews fight amongst themselves, and that he simply needs to steal the throne properly. He then began as a yet unseen mission to achieve warlord status, and allowed him much more freedom to do as he pleases in his journey to the New World on the way to One Piece. Law also appears to have a sense of honor, or at least a respect for those he sees as potential rivals in the future. when he appears at Marineford and claims he wants to help Luffy because, in his words, it would be too lame if a future enemy were to die here. He is also appalled when he hears that Caesar subjected the kids on Punk Hazard to drugs. This is in stark contrast to what most people think about him, since Scratchman Apu states that Law was infamous for his cruelty, and one of Smoker's men claimed he cut out the hearts of 100 pirates and sent them to the world government in order to gain the position of a warlord. Law has displayed a cruel side, offering to strike Tashigi yet again after already bisecting her body. He has also suggested to leave the kids on Punk Hazard behind, as they were too much of a burden to deal with. Despite Law's terse and rather cruel demeanor towards others, he's shown to have some measure of compassion, shown when how he decided to help the Straw Hats find a cure for the children's disease inflicted by Caesar Clown's drugs, even though he originally didn't want to have anything to do with them. He also warned the Straw Hats to be careful of Caesar's ability, and told them not to told those who have the ability to engage in Logias to stay away. Law is also very blunt when responding to people, such as occasions including when Ivankov asked if Law was a friend of Luffy's, to which he replied no, and even offered to make up an excuse to make Ivankov feel better about him saving Luffy. Soon afterwards, a wounded Jinbei wanted to thank him, only for Law to reply that Jinbei would die if he did not sleep. Later, when Jinbei asked what would happen to Luffy if he were allowed to run rampant while still wounded, Law replied that the outcome would be simple. Luffy's wounds would open up and he would die. He also had no qualms explaining to other people how he accomplished nullifying their attacks with his abilities, and before that even stated to Tashigi that weaklings don't get the right to choose the manner in which they die. Despite holding the name D, Law, like Dragon, has a stern and somewhat distant demeanor. He also does not exhibit a huge appetite like Luffy or Teach. However, like all the bearers of D, Law has a strong belief in fate, believing it's fate that brought Luffy to Rayleigh, and that Luffy was fated to fight Doflamingo at Dressrosa. He hates bread and dislikes umeboshi, pickled ume fruit. He prefers onigiri and also likes freshly grilled fish. Powers and abilities. In his youth, after Law realized he was dying, he went to Doflamingo to join the future warlord's crew, planning to cause as much devastation as possible to the world before dying. Doflamingo accepted Law, and while a part of the pirate crew, he learned swordsmanship from Diamante, marksmanship from Gladius, and martial arts from Lao Ji, in Doflamingo's hope to find a cure for Law and raise him to be the third Kurazan. Law is a fearsome pirate who, along with most of his crew, proven resistant to Rayleigh's burst of haki that took out almost everyone in the auction house. Even Don Quixote Doflamingo commented to his subordinates at Punk Hazard about Law's potential, comparing it to Luffy's, which Doflamingo witnessed himself during the Marineford War 2 years ago. Doflamingo saw talent in Law and intended to make him his right-hand man, as well as reserve the heart seat for Law, showing that the latter is considered at the same level of an elite officer of the Doflamingo family. Virgo is only able to keep ahead of Law because he had the latter's heart at the time, a situation that immensely reversed after Smoker reluctantly helped Law retrieve the organ. He is also apparently quite fearless, as he allowed several Marines to get close range of him at the Shabaoni Archipelago, despite being a long-range fighter. During their stay at the Shabaoni Archipelago, the Kid Pirates and Heart Pirates were caught in a battle with a pacifista. The end of the battle was unseen, but since they reappear in the Marineford arc, it can be assumed that they either defeated the pacifista or somehow managed to elude it. Kizaru mentions that the Heart Pirates did a good job at running away. Trafalgar Law has shown to be a very crafty and opportunistic leader, even for a successful pirate captain and a former supernova, despite being regarded as one of the most powerful pirates of his generation. Law was the only one of the group to voluntarily rest in the paradise half of the Grand Line, for at least a couple of months, rather than immediately enter the treacherous New World region, indicating the great deal of caution and tactical mentality. He also demonstrated this by replacing a lot of the sea stone chains on Punk Hazard with steel ones, and came up with a plan to quickly and stealthily escape the cage he was trapped in. He was able to make a plan to retrieve the substance known as SAD, and the only miscalculation was Virgo, a man who was able to beguile the entire Marine organization, including the observant Smoker. He even managed to force Doflamingo, an extremely cunning and resourceful pirate in his own right, into a lose-lose situation of either quit the warlords and face the wrath of the admirals, or stay and face the wrath of Kaido. He was able to even fool Doflamingo into believing he killed him by swapping places with a foot soldier when the latter shot him repeatedly and retaliated when his guard was down. Sometime during the time skip, Law became so powerful and infamous that even the ruthless members of the Marines G5 were deeply afraid of him. He had gained a bounty that surpassed Luffy's current one, and then brought 100 pirates' hearts to the world government, earning him a position in the Seven Warlords. Law was able to battle and eventually defeat Smoker, a Marine Vice Admiral, and a Logia user without himself getting seriously injured. He also defeated Virgo in one move, while before in the past he was unable to even harm him. He is now strong enough to counter attacks from the Marines, from an admiral and a fellow warlord at the same time, as shown during his confrontation with Isho and Doflamingo. Physical abilities. In addition to his Devil Fruit, Law has sufficient super strength and tactical prowess to duel on equal terms against Smoker and his Jutei. He has also displayed great endurance, as he had his heart deliberately crushed to the point where he lost consciousness, only to recover shortly afterwards. In addition, he is also capable of enduring a prolonged beating from Virgo, which resulted in him becoming severely bloodied before defeating him in a single blow when Smoker retrieved his heart. Even when he was defeated and injured by Doflamingo and Admiral Isho, Law was able to quickly recover and escape. During his second confrontation with Doflamingo, Law was able to fight him, and despite being wounded from their first encounter, and even having his right arm severed and assaulted further, he was able to continue fighting and deal Doflamingo a severe wound with his Gamma Knife move. Even incapacitated by trouble, he was able to use his severed arm and defeated the officer. Medical expertise. Since childhood, Law has often already attended an academy for medical science, with his father, the best doctor in Fleavance, teaching him the more intricate procedures. He has earned the nickname the Surgeon of Death due to his surgical skills, in addition to his formidable combat abilities. He appears to be a considerable doctor, as he is able to treat both Luffy and Jinbei right after both had barely escaped the murderous Akainu that had left them all both on the brink of death. The mere fact that he was able to stabilize Jinbei's condition strongly hints that Law's medical expertise is not limited to the human anatomy alone, though human and fishmen share the same blood, so it's possible they have similar anatomies. He later volunteered to find a cure for the children's condition at Punk Hazard, implying he's also very versed in pharmacology. The fact that he was able to cure the children of Caesar Clown's deadly NHC-10 drug not completely, is a noteworthy feat, something Chopper was even amazed by. The power given to him by the Ape Ape fruit makes surgeries easier to perform, as they allow him to cut a patient's body open and remove organs without damaging tissue, leaving scars or causing the patient to bleed. This was demonstrated off-screen during the conclusion of the Punk Hazard arc, during which he treated the children with a series of surgeries involved cutting the children's bodies apart in a manner that would initially make Chopper believe he had killed them. Devil Fruit. Law is the user of the Devil Fruit called the Ape Ape Fruit, which allows him to create a spherical territory of a light blue aura. In this territory, he's capable of separating and spatially displacing anything and everything inside, including himself, referred to simply that he can operate on anything within the spherical's operating room. Easily among the most versatile Devil Fruits around, with his powers, Law is easily capable of causing mass havoc in the area that he controls. He can also use it for teleportation purposes. He has also demonstrated the ability to apply his ability for medical purposes, as seen when he cured the giant children of their addiction brought by Caesar Clown's drugs. Law also has mastered his powers to such a great extent that he can even cut through someone who has completely imbued their body by Haki. The weakness of this technique seems to be the concentration required to use it. Law must gesture with his hands to create the centralized effect upon his victims, which allows him to caused an opening for a fast enough opponent, such as Virgo. His abilities also deplete his strength the more he uses them. And given Law's strategic nature, he seems to have a strong tendency to preserve every bit of stamina in preparation before facing off against powerful adversaries, like the likes of Don Quixote, as seen when he constantly refused to use his powers to aid the Straw Hats as they made their way towards Greenbit. Other than that, he has the same standard weaknesses of all Devil Fruit users. Law's swordsmanship. Law's offensive abilities lie in his swordsmanship, demonstrated by his expert use of a sword that is about as tall as he is, though he is seen being able to defend himself without using his Devil Fruit powers. In contrast to the ranging slashes of traditional swordsmen, Law's slashes don't travel but simply provide a cutting effect, while his spatial manipulation within his room provides the range. He can dismember people without harming them and attach separate parts in any manner he sees fit. He is proficient enough to be able to clash against Smoker's Nanishiki Jite without little trouble, and combined with his Devil Fruit powers, he is repeatedly shown to be able to mutilate people faster than they can react, apparently defeating Kunemon in this manner. He was also able to defeat Shishigi, a skilled swordswoman of the Marines, severing her in two, as well as taking down Scotch and his giant knife in one move. His greatest swordsman feat is shown that so far having been defeated Virgo, where he, in the wake of his slash, was capable of cutting apart Caesar's lab and the surrounding mountains and cutting a meteor in half. He also managed to wrap the rope created by Don Quixote Doflamingo's attacks around this sword. Law has stated haki. Law has stated by Luffy to have haki. The full extent of his abilities using this has not been revealed, but he's displayed enough proficiency with Bushushoku haki to block Doflamingo's five-colored strings technique, which took out a large portion of the palace. During his battle with Smoker, Law is shown capable of bypassing the Vice Admiral's Logia defenses thanks to his own haki powers. Weapon. Kikoku. Kikoku is a large version of the typical Japanese sword type known as a nodachi. It is oblong-shaped handguard coated with white fur, sheathed in a black scabbard decorated with white crosses from the opening to the bottom, with a small piece of a red rope tied near the opening. Law appears to be quite skilled with it, being able to slice up targets from a distance, although this effect is attributed to his Devil Fruit powers. Due to his size, Law usually carries it over his shoulder, in contrast to other sword-wielding characters in the series who either carry theirs on their hips or over their backs. Yet at other times, he delegates one of his crew, namely Beppo, to carry the sword for him. Law is able to deflect Doflamingo's strings with his sword, which is noteworthy as Doflamingo managed to easily cut through everything else thus far. And that is the bio for the Surgeon of Death. A little over 18 minutes. Not bad. Tune in next time as we go to the next warlord. Actually, the first warlord to be introduced in the series. The greatest swordsman in the world, Dracul Mihawk. So if you like what you see, link, comment, subscribe below. If you want to support the channel, just give a quick operative slash to that like button. Or if you want to support it in another way, click on one of the advertisements around there. They really do help. Or if you want to donate directly, tip jar's up there. You know what to do. So, until next time, this has been Shin Tiger Curl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good morning, and it's time to operate.